It's Troy, and I'm standing here in front of a property that we did recently. Now, this is actually a really good deal. We beat out 2 other investors to get a hold of this property. And the reason we beat them out is the other 2 investors only knew one strategy. They tried to come in and lowball and beat up the seller for cash. Well, we understood the other strategies that we could use. So as we ran our numbers through the system, we realized that this made a great equity partnership deal. With equity partnership, we were able to give the seller the number they wanted, and we were able to make a deal. Now, this is a beautiful little house. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. This is a quiet neighborhood. We're standing here on a cul-de-sac. We've got all block construction. And I'll tell you what's really cool is the seller had put in a new central heat and air system. They'd already completely tiled the inside, so it was very low maintenance. We did have to do a couple of things. And come on inside, let me show you what we did. All right, here we are inside this property. Now, remember, this was bought with an equity partnership deal, so we literally came into this with nothing down and took over some payments from the seller. It was a great way to give her exactly what she wanted for her price. And we did have to do a little bit. As a matter of fact, we put in this new kitchen. Notice the new white Marcite covered cabinets, the brushed nickeled knobs, the new countertops, the new sink, and the new appliances that we put in. Now, the funny thing about this galley kitchen here is it's got as much cabinet space as I've got in my own home. Lots of cabinet space, and it's not as expensive as you think. In fact, we were able to do this entire package for around $1,500, maybe $1,600, appliances included, and that's all knowing how to shop. Yeah, we did spend a little bit of money because we also painted the property and we upgraded the electrical panel. But here's where it gets really, really good. This property is a great cash flow property that we get into without having to generate a bank loan, without having to go to a hard money lender, by just involving the seller in a partnership. Now, this is a great deal that's going to offer us some fantastic cash flow. In fact, at current rental rates, even if we take the low end of the scale, we're looking at over $500 a month in cash flow, and our total cash out of pocket on this equity partnership deal is around $1,500. Now, that is a good deal. And it's because we knew the strategy, we could solve the problem that other investors could not. And now we're in the money. I'm going to let you in on a secret. I've made a few mistakes, and I'm going to share those mistakes with you. Well, here's one of them I made. I didn't do my due diligence properly on a property. I bought it, the numbers looked great, the cash flow looked great. I had a home inspector go in, but I missed one very important step in my due diligence, and that important step actually caused me to lose the property in the long run. This was a property it was in another state. I didn't even live there. And I never checked with the city to verify zoning and what was going on. Had I done that, I would have turned and ran. You see, what I found out after I closed was that the city was trying to get this whole area redesignated so that they could qualify for some funds that the government had available, and then they could develop a new business district, commercial district in town. Well, 6 months after I closed, I had the only occupied property on the entire block. All because I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't make one simple phone call to the city's planning and zoning area, and that set me back. We've seen a lot of people make some mistakes, and we've seen a lot of people get off to some good starts.
We have, and Troy's been involved pretty much on the front end side of the industry. I've been involved on the back end side, meaning that I've been involved with the people who have bought the programs that launched them into real estate careers. Some successfully, most, however, not quite so successfully.
I've worked with a lot of people who have done very well. Now, some people have just gone to the library and bought a book. In fact, I was just talking to a guy about 2 weeks ago who owns several rental properties, and he did it all because he went and bought a Carlton Sheets home study program about 15, 20 years ago. Now, his interest, of course, is being able to branch out additional strategies. And how important are additional strategies in today's market? Well, I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to hear from a lot of people. You won't ever get rich wholesaling real estate. In fact, if all you're doing is wholesaling real estate, it's called a transactional deal. And as soon as you stop doing it, you don't have any more income. It's kind of like working a job, isn't it, Jack?
It really is, because the moment you stop doing that, the paychecks stop as well.
That's right. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to be able to wholesale real estate. And I don't care if you're a brand new investor just looking to do your first deal, or if you're a seasoned investor who's already done a few dozen. Now, In addition to wholesaling, you've got to have some long-term. In fact, you've got to have long-term and short-term holdings to really build wealth with real estate. Am I right?
You really do. In fact, just a little bit of disclosure here. I'm part of the baby boomer generation. I can tell you, most of us that are in that category are looking for long-term strategies with long-term cash flow associated with those properties.
That's right. That's right. And some people are scared to own property. They think, well, gee, if I've got a rental property, I'm going to be one of those landlords. And I've heard all those horror stories. Folks, let me tell you, I've owned rental properties for years, and I've not had those horror stories. I know you've heard that today's the great opportunity in real estate, but ultimately, really comes down to it doesn't matter what the market's doing as long as you're working the right strategy to fit the market. So we really needed to learn to apply all the different strategies, and that's kind of what started the birth of the Asset Booster program.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
We realized that there can be up to 9 different ways to look at these properties, and different strategies, both short-term and long-term. We had to do wholesaling every month. In fact, wholesaling a couple of these properties actually made the cash that we needed to cover our marketing expense. So we started looking at multiple different ways, and we started looking at the short-term strategies like wholesaling or the flash flip or the rehab and flip, and those were great. They made good money. But then we started mixing in the long-term. I did a few subject-to deals. We made some straight outright wholesale purchases. We tied up a couple of properties on a lease option and wound up sandwiching them out. We had to develop a system that gave us a way to look at these properties as quickly as possible so that we could decide, based on the criteria, what we could do with that particular property and what strategies would or wouldn't work. As soon as we started working this system, we found out that our deal closing ratio per month almost doubled because we had more opportunities to work with on these properties.
Not only that, you were creating a lot of opportunities for other investors at the same time.
We were.
And one of the biggest things, too, that we have to talk about is not only was it showing you what you could do with the property, but as importantly, you could be shown what not to do with the property.
That's exactly right. We could see real quickly. In fact, the Asset Booster program now, the way it's out with its logic, and you put in the numbers, you can see what to offer on the property, what your potential profit would be, what your potential income would be. And even if those numbers go negative, it's going to tell you the honest truth about that property. Here, I want to talk about this property deal, because this was a very creative structure that we were able to put together, and it's all because you know to apply the different strategies. Now, this is one that other investors just couldn't do, but we were able to make work with an equity partnership deal. Now, here's the cool thing. We put a tenant into this property and got some good cash flow, and we had a great equity partnership with the seller, and then the seller decides that they really want to get out of the deal. So we decided to go ahead and shift and make them an offer to just cash them out. Now, we had put a little bit of money into this property to make it rent ready, and the seller agreed to take $5,000 less than the deal that we had made with them to begin with. Now, here's where it gets fun. I brought in a private lender who actually wrote us a note with their personal funds to secure against this property for $10,000 more than I was going to pay my old partner, my equity partner, the old seller. So you know what the end result was? I was able to buy out my partner, refinance this property, and put almost $10,000 in my pocket without having to go to a bank, just by restructuring my equity partnership deal and putting it in with a private lender. It's a great way to pull cash out of a property without having to go to a bank, and it's very, very easy to do.